All right, so let's begin. And our first question for you is, we're going to ask all of the artists, what do you want people who engage with your projects to take away from seeing your work and experiencing your work? What do you want them to understand differently? And what are your goals for your project? Start with Meg.
Oh, my God. Well, what inspired my project is that when it comes to discussions about Haiti, there's a lot of conversations around political pundits, foreign entities, and such, and no one talks to Haitian people enough about what Haitian people want for the country. And I say it that way because even though, yes, I'm first-generation American, but I'm fully aware of my privilege of diaspora. So we need to talk to people who are who live in the island day to day to find out, to know what they want for the country. And so I was working with young Haitian people who have only been here at most a couple of years. So the memories of home are still very fresh for them. And so I think my takeaway is that we need to listen more to young people. And I know it's a cliche thing to say, but people say it, but they don't do it. And then working with the Haitian people, young Haitians, teens that I worked with, I just wanted them to really understand that art is available to them. We didn't just do dance, we also did visual art and poetry. And so I just wanted them to know that art is available to them as a way to express themselves. Some of them responded more to visual art, some of them really, I think the team I worked with at Brooklyn International High School really enjoyed dancing. Some really enjoyed poetry, and having that mode of expression. So I just wanted them to understand that that's available to them to help express themselves and their ideas. So those are my main goals.
I'm happy I was the first. That was like 4 questions, all right. What I want everyone to take away from this is that several things. So I focus on intergenerational storytelling, specifically within the Haitian culture, whether Haitian diaspora or Haitians in Haiti. And what I want us to understand is that all the Gramoun, or people who don't speak Creole, Gramoun is the older people, and all the young people, everybody thinks they know everything, and no one talks to each other because they're so easy to dismiss everyone else's experience. And what I want everyone to take away from the work that I do is that everyone's story is worth telling. My primary goal is to memorialize Haitian life, and everyone, not just the white plus of the world, but the mailmen, the taxi drivers, the stay-at-home moms, the moms who beat you because you didn't clean your room. That wasn't okay, but it happened, right? And I think it's really important because Haiti in general, Haitians specifically, get a bad rap in media. So I'm using media as a means to counter that. What I want people to take away from my work is that your dignity can't be monetized nor can it be qualified. It's just, I'm here to underscore it, to highlight it, be like, ha, told you. And in terms of my overall work, because the last question is, I'm embarking upon an over 2-year journey, but 2+ year journey in memorializing Haitian stories in a coffee table book titled Black Magic, Stories of Movement. And it's going to be Haitians in Haiti and of the diaspora. That's from Haiti to Brazil to Brooklyn. But it's to ensure that when we're not here, that our stories are told, and also that while we're here, we're sharing our stories with each other. Because there's so much healing that could be happening that you don't realize isn't happening because you aren't speaking with each other. And thank you. Buy the book when it comes out. I've heard all that applause, remember.
What inspired my piece, my project, comes from honestly working in the puppetry theater world, where there aren't many people of color, let alone Haitian artists, so to speak, and realizing all of this skill and knowledge I've gained working on not my stories, our stories. I realized that I could be using for our stories, and that they should be. To jump off of what you were saying about media representation of the Haitian culture, the young Haitian Americans that are growing up now, they don't know about it. What they know is what they see on the screen, but it's never good. And what the part of, I'm getting to the thing I know Emily wants me to part of the goal is ultimately to have, you know, two Haitians at a bus stop trading Greek crock. And it's not just for the two exchanging, it's for me or somebody else overhearing another Haitian person who's having a hard time, like, oh, that was funny. You know, that's all it takes, because Haitian culture isn't what you see on the news. Haitian culture is the joy and the beauty, and like what I shared with y'all, what you took part in, right? Yeah, that's the inspiration and the takeaway.
I would say what really brought me to this project was really seeing the way that I grew up with my mom and my grandmother, and seeing the ways it's always been kind of a sense of survival that has been very present in the home, and understanding that because even though we go from one place to others, and as we kind of get to move all over the world, I think I really wanted to think through what happens when we are actually able to feel whole and be whole, and not have to let parts of ourselves go as we move across. And creating these workshops that I did with the migrant organization were really focusing on mental health and really understanding terms and even emotions and ways of being that I think, even if you think of Creole, there's terms that do not necessarily exist, or emotions like sorrow, and trying to really putting those across through making and creating, where I think those non-tangible ways of making really help to understand and process, which the big goal is emotional processing, and using art as a way to do that. And I think also kind of as a way to kind of touch into parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily allow or think through, and making mental health something that is really important and seen within our community, I think was the main goal, and really making us curious about our inner worlds, and what does that look like when we actually get to nurture it.
This next question specifically for Lorna and Maxine. How do you define community engagement in your practice, and how does it show up in this specific project?
Well, Laura and I did collaborate on a workshop at Flamboyant, because I didn't want to only introduce dance into the space. I wanted the young people that I worked with to have different points of entry into the work, and so we did a movement and visual art workshop together, which I'm grateful for, and some of the pieces are out there on the table, FYI. When it comes to community work, it's very important to pay attention to the work that's already happening, which is why I partnered with Flamboyant and the Goddess Project, and there's schools and organizations that are already in there doing the work. So there's no need to quote unquote reinvent the wheel. So it's about strengthening the work that's already happening. And so that's why I was really glad that I got to partner with various entities in my project.
To go back to that as well, I would say that I partnered with two mental health practitioners. So Dr. Jean-Pierre, I think that's which are amazing. And I think in creating the workshops that I did with the migrant organizations, I really wanted to shoulder onto what they've already had been doing, and kind of bringing the arts more as kind of activation within the space, and to activate the knowledge that we're sharing. And I would say for me, kind of going forward with the New Laou workshops, I would see kind of them getting into spaces that are outside, which, because of the way in which the residency kind of got more into the fall season, we can really go outside and really enjoy the different areas of Crown Heights. I think that would be another way to really engage with the environment, but also keep it.
That's the one for Ruth and Emmanuel. So Ruth and Emmanuel, we wanted to ask you if you could talk about how your work is challenging established narratives, and and how that thought process plays into your work.
That's a good deep though.
Yes, didn't prepare an answer for that. I mean, I'll kind of echo what I was saying before in terms of what someone who doesn't know anything about Haitian culture would get from mainstream media, just like looking up whatever. And in the process of like interviewing folks and collecting stories. What was the question again? I want to make sure, because I'm gonna go somewhere, but I was like,
I'm interested in where you're going.
okay.
Go there. Yeah.
I spoke with somebody, and it comes from curiosity in a way, because like jokes, riddles, like their purpose is pretty straightforward, but then someone shared an interview that like back home in Haiti, in the provincial, rural areas, they would have somebody whose job it was at funerals, at like wakes or receptions, to come and like make jokes. You feed them, maybe pay them, you feed them, and they come and they make mirth. And it was like, blew my mind. I was like, what? Like, the concept makes sense, but I would never have thought that was how that was used, or what that was done. I think of like Jewish culture, for example, they have a lot of, death things that they do to kind of ritualize what they're doing and this and that. I was like, yeah, Haitians, they have a comedian at the funeral. That's what would hit. That's what Haitians would. Someone to like.
Yeah, where's your food?
And it was just like, what? And then I asked, I never seen that before. But they were both like, yeah, that's as if that was just like, of course that's what we did. Like, I never heard of that. Like, can go on about that. And so he goes on to explain that it's of a certain class, when you leave Haiti, you can't leave that, but that was back there. We don't do that, was back there. As much as like they're like grinning, thinking about it, but it's very much like, oh no, that was no good. It's like, what? We should still do that. We could keep doing that. Another point that came up, I think it might have been with your piece, Ruth, about knowledge or stories or histories shared between generations. And the challenge with my residency process is like, it's stories, it's riddles, it's for kids, but I'm not interviewing kids about what they know, I'm interviewing elders about what they know. And like, I don't want to be the middleman. Grandparents, tell your grandkids the stories. Like, they want to hear this stuff. They're getting wisdom and knowledge from white culture as opposed to our culture. That story that's so nuanced and whatever, everyone I share it with is like, oh, I know that's Haitian? Yeah, that's Haitian. Like, yes to that, but also to me, I didn't know that story before this process. Never heard of it before this process. And to show that like, something that beautiful and just like, is there, that.
I need a repetition of the question.
So the question is, if you could talk about how your work challenges established narratives. If I can add to that, like, we've just had so many amazing conversations about silence. And so maybe if you can just share with everyone your thoughts about silence and how you're thinking, what the established narratives around silence are and how your work addresses them. Just talk about silence.
I'll be silent. My piece is called the For those of you who may not understand Creole, it means behind dreams are other dreams. And it's a play on a proverb, a Haitian proverb, which they are mon game mon, which is behind mountains are other mountains. And what I found with, so number one, I was born in Crown Heights, I was raised in Canarsie. And what Canarsie represents for a lot of Haitians in Brooklyn specifically is a step up. That's like our Long Island. That's the Brooklyn Long Island. That's Long Island before Long Island. That's the Queen before Queens, right? That's a direct quote from, if the person wants to raise their hand, they're in the room. But so I had these series of interviews with people who are raised in Canarsie, whose family still lives in Canarsie, who were raised there and left and who never want to go back. I didn't find that too often. But what the theme was, like, silence basically served an integral purpose and goal in terms of getting that status that is Canarsie. And in so doing it, also perpetrated a imagination that isn't always healthy, but is sometimes healthy, right? So it's like, we have houses and we have this level of access, we have this level of social capital within our communities, but once you delve deeper into these interviews, and some of these people I've known for my entire life, some of them I've known 30 years, some of them I haven't known for that long, it's like, oh yeah, we couldn't really afford it, right? And then when you're looking behind the veil, like there's like this dream that's superimposed over reality, and it serves as like this dual thing. It lets you know that what you're capable of. Like, we grew up in a house, so I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to own one, right? Because that's not reality. But then you didn't tell me that you couldn't afford it, so now that I can't afford it, I'm trying to figure out why I can't.
Somebody,
right? So it's like, it's great. It's silence just keeps serving as this means and measure to like hide trauma, to deal with trauma, right? Nobody wants to revisit it, except all the millennials were in therapy. Hi. Right? But like when I'm these intergenerational conversations, our older generations don't want to revisit it. So when we're asking these questions, they're using silence as a protective blanket. Like, why would I want to talk about living under poverty? Why would I want to talk about my sexual assault? Why would I want to talk about almost losing this house that I can't afford? And you know, I can't buy you the Jordans, but I'm yelling at you, and it's your fault. You think it's your fault, but really, I can't make ends meet because of this American dream that I sought.
The lie of the American dream that I couldn't see.
Right.
Yes. Right, but I'm glad you said that it was a lie, but for them it was a reality, because my mother did come here. My mother was a home attendant. When they purchased the home in Canarsie, my father wasn't employed. And I didn't find out until I did this interview, and that my mother borrowed money from an aunt. And then another friend, her father wasn't employed, and they used Copsol, right? So the American dream is a lie, but they found a way to make it a reality. And then that reality is so multifaceted because it's lying to us while also telling us the truth. And then we end up feeling oftentimes, and when I say we, I'm talking about my peers. I'm finding that the younger generation is not really with the shits. But majority of the people that I interviewed were peers and the elderly. What I found is that like, because of their silence, there's so much to perceive from that. So you have like, you might be talking to your parent, and you're like, like, it's horrible, right? Like, leave me alone. It basically means vanish yourself for the like, disappear. That's yourself. And you're taking that as you're the burden, you've done something wrong. But in reality, they're anxious. They don't know how to answer the question, right? And then you carry this on until you ask those questions. And sometimes they don't even answer. Sometimes you have to wait till, you're playing dominoes and you overhear. But silence serves as like this poison and medicine all at the same time. And it was just so eye-opening. And it helps heal parts of yourself and give yourself grace. Because it's like, oh, I wasn't being annoying. I can ask questions. It's not the question asking, it's the circumstance that I was not aware of because no one shared it with me. But then when you speak to the elderly, some of them have said, like, I just didn't want to shield you from parent problems and adult problems. And it's like, it didn't come across that way. It didn't come across as like protection, but it was. Because that's how they always saw to protect themselves, and also to be like, there was superficial to protect their appearance. It's important to look good. It's important to smell good. It's important to sound good, right? And a large part of my exhibit is just like, you'll see a very beautifully made dinner table and there's no food served. There's purposely no food served. Because we, like, even some of the interviews, some people were just like, we didn't have cable, we didn't have long distance call. There was a time when long distance calling had to be paid for. Well, we would do that at church, right? So it's also to protect this veil of like, you can't hurt me because I'm impermeable. So it just serves so many different ways. Come on.
Your corner.
You can donate to the book though. Go to theaugustproject.org/donate and you can donate to the book. www.theaugustproject.org/donate. You can donate to the book.
Always be closing.
Huh?
Always be closing.
Always be closing. Our collective donation to the book.
So we want to open it up to questions. Yes,
You don't always right.
Right, yeah.
My name is Amy. I'm the executive director of Mokata. I just want to say thank you to Regine and her team and to all of you for humanizing us. I'm 45 years old, born here, and for many years, just being able to say I'm Haitian out loud outside of the community was like hard. So to be able to celebrate together in our culture, loudly, boldly, is like, I'm sitting here trying to fight back tears.
Don't fight them.
No, I'm keeping them in so I can go create when I leave. Let me keep that. But I have so many questions. One, do you have a publisher? Two, Emmanuel, are you going to do Tizoiseau Fiat Lalo?
It's fine.
Right, that's a good one, right? And then the third question, which is for all of you, as you start thinking about, having your work go beyond our community, are you thinking about what pieces of the culture to share and what pieces of the culture to keep?
I'll start with that. That's a good question. Do I have a publisher? Not yet. But I have been pitching people, so let me know. To talk about publishing, like the book, I want it to be like big and large and obnoxious. Not obnoxious, but like
Obnoxious
thick. Like, yeah, obnoxious. I want it to take up space in ways that Haitians haven't always been able to, and forcing people to pay attention to it. Like, you can't just put it in your bag. You're gonna have to carry this book home. I want to acknowledge Stephen. Go ahead and say hi. Yo, Stephen's one of the most humble people. It's so annoying sometimes. So Stephen is also working with you on the book. So he, in there, you'll see some photographs taken. He took those photographs, and he's working with me on traveling the world and collecting these stories and taking these people's photos with dignity. Right? We're not just having them in the bush, which is fine too, because new tweet women like Tiffany, right? But it's making sure that everyone is seen with dignity. To answer your question, and it's, excuse me, but I do have a philosophy undergrad major, so I am constantly questioning that. While I was editing the stories, I didn't want, like, I interviewed my brother and sister also. Like, my brother was saying wild stuff, and I wanted to delete some stuff. I'm just like, you can't talk about mommy like that. Like, you can talk about your father like that, but but there were parts which just kind of like, I was raised Catholic, I was raised Haitian, I was raised Black in the U.S., and there's a certain level of shame that is incorporated in order to maintain survival. Yeah. And what does it mean that I'm putting certain businesses out, like certain my business out there? Saying that my father didn't have a job when we bought our house is crazy to me. Like, the fact that I just did that just now is wild. But also, did I edit out names of everyone that was interviewed? Yes. Did they request that? No. But I was like, I don't know if they want that in there, so let me just make the decision for them. So it's a constant battle of like, how much of this is freedom? How much of this is salacious? How much of this is trauma that I'm harboring because it speaks to my identity, having to look perfect? If you know me, I'm a perfectionist. I almost cried back there because my stuff wasn't working. And how much of this is going to actually, if I can shed myself of it, will help my community. Because the overall goal is to alleviate poverty, and a portion of those proceeds will be going to alleviation of poverty maybe.
To answer your question about how much to share, I kind of already move as a choreographer in a way where there's just certain things I don't. I'm conscious of what I put out. I'm sort of like the dance version of Quail Pale, Quail Compon. And I'm particularly more aware of it now because as a choreographer, I'm sorry, I'm an Aries, I'm just blunt. I've already witnessed instances of people who like take from the culture in various ways in their art and are not really in community with us. I feel some type of way about that. And so as a choreographer, I'm actually very conscious. I tend to sometimes often refer to certain things in an abstract way. For example, I once choreographed a solo called What Can't Be Denied, talking about the presence of Odu in our culture. And I addressed certain elements, certain ritual elements in an abstract way where I remember when I presented it, the Haitians, the audience were like, oh, and everybody else was just like, oh, that's a pretty dance. So I kind of already move a certain way because I want people to connect to my work, but at the same time, I'm fully aware of my presence as a Black woman, a Haitian American woman, and how much hawking there is of cultures and things. And so I feel like it's a constant dance, no pun intended, a constant dance of like how to navigate that for me personally.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, there were a lot of different stories I considered, but long story short, pun intended, is yes, the intention is to adapt multiple folk tales as it goes. There are some that are a bit more nuanced for an outside audience, that certain things just won't make sense. And there's a challenge in certain things don't make sense, and that's okay. It might not make sense to you, but if you're willing to listen, you know, it'll come around. The other beauty to folk tales for me is it's kind of like an introduction to philosophy in a way. It takes life's hard lessons, like things don't always work out the way you want them to, even though you know like everything is set up, and still something, you know, like in the story I shared. So folktales speak to human nature in a way. So I can hope that the stories will be relevant because we're all people at the end of the day. Who's fielding questions? I don't know.
You can stand up. I think
Oh,
we
awesome.
I
don't want to say anything. Hi, good night. My name is Stephanie here. I'm curious. Thank you very much.
What's your name?
My name is Stephanie Pierre. I'm the founder and creative director of the Melanie Project. So I've had my own opportunity to create an identification identity last year. But I'm most interested with all of you in what the creation process has done to you as a storyteller. What has it done to you as an artist? Because just engaging just the sum of the art in there, I know that I was almost moved to tears when I saw pictures of the feet in that. Because I've met a few in my work last year. I've met a few people who walked through Chile twice. You know what I'm saying? And so when I saw the pictures of the feet, I was like, oh my God, like I know people who, they're not going to tell you that's living experiences. So I'm curious as to how you guys have been moved by like just the subject matter you chose to engage in this year.
For me, really working with mental health and also with writers as well. I think, of course, in the intimate spaces that we were sharing, there was many stories that were shared, and something that kind of kept coming back was this idea of letting God or letting a higher power take over when we feel like everything is kind of falling apart. But I think what was great with having these workshops and having this space for all of us to kind of have a conversation with each other and really share things and hardships is that we felt like there was kind of like a connection, and there were other ways to really kind of follow through and move through, and seeing that that we have kind of like that power from within, and there's ways to access that through, whether it is, having some kind of tea, like the very minimal things of everyday life that we sometimes forget, that kind of give us rest and give us space to really process and make sense of things. I think that kind of was something that I am not going to carry with me, as I feel like faith is such a big thing in our community, and seeing that there is ways to go beyond that, and seeing that we have power in making ourselves and our futures.
I'll answer. Also, she has a hand. I want her to go next for the question. By the way, I want to also, to Emily, just to backtrack. in terms of couching in Canarsie, I remember talking to she moved from Crown Heights to Canarsie, and it was in Canarsie where she found out that being Haitian was bad. Because in Crown Heights, she was like, we Haitian, we live in the same building, and then once she gets to Canarsie, they're like, ew, you Haitian? She's like, is that it's this introduction to what the rest of the world thinks. So I just wanted to I know you said that saying it out loud was something big for you. What it has introduced to me is like a level of discomfort.
Okay, yes.
And the discomfort isn't good and it's not bad. So it's making me empathetic to people I didn't want to be empathetic to. Empathetic to people who have harmed me. It's giving, right, I'm already intellectually curious, so it's also making me very much like, oh, now I get to know more, now I get to know more, now I get to know more, and also having to temper myself and not making sure that I'm not doing it just for curiosity's sake, because these are people's stories. And I'm glad that you noticed the feet, because those feet have walked through Chile and through the Darien Gap. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that that wasn't the biggest picture. The biggest picture was their family. Yeah. The biggest picture was them as like individuals. I made sure to choose the photo of her like staring at you and the photo of him looking real cool.
No,
right?
you did amazing.
Thank you.
You did. No.
Shout out to who I consulted with also on the project, to you and Sparkle, to the consultant in the room. And then, where's Mr. Humble? He left. Steven was the photographer, but it introduced me to the fact that like we say that we're so multifaceted, but like all of the facets, it's so deeply entwined into each other. So the same exact person could have gone through a dictatorship and also have oppressed you because of that dictatorship, and also have forced you in a position to now be harmful to yourself and not have grace. And then now you're listening to like what they may have gone through. So you've already decided that like you're the good guy, and then now you're being introduced to information that have made maybe you're not as thoughtful as you thought you were. So I would say that collecting a lot of stories have made me a little uncomfortable. And also sometimes some of those stories, especially with my friends, I had already decided like I'm the bad guy. We're the broke ones that's with, wearing a Gucci belt, as my brother would say. And then I'm hearing their stories and they're going through the same thing. I'm just kind of like, am I self-centered? Or is that what silence has done to me? So.
Let me make sure we still have time to experience more of the art, but let's do your question.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a statement and a question in the same breath, right? So I think each of you take up space in your own ways. You said something very specific to the point that, even if people don't understand it, and you were amazing with saying, so what if they don't? Because I am a Brooklyn girl, born and raised on Bedford between Sterling and St. John's, right? So, and I moved over to Jersey. So, but the way that Haitians have been portrayed growing up as a Black woman, seeing how much everyone was separated, supposedly you get to being Black and then you get to also now separating what Black looks like, right? And what those cultures are versus everyone coming together and learning how to understand all the different cultures. Because at the end of the day, we were all separated at some point in time, right? So we really all don't know who we are unless you were born somewhere and can say that, right? So you guys all take up space in your own ways, but you are powerful, you all are. But in your book, you said that you wanted to be obnoxious and to take up space, but your voice takes up so much space. And I wonder how you are going to use your voice and your platform to continue, or a platform, to continue to inspire people to do what you've already been doing. Like, your voice needs to be heard louder.
That's my best friend.
I'm officially a Ruth fan. How are you?
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. How am I going to inspire others to do similar work? Number one, I do freelance work. So I've been published in a number of publications, including Ebony, Travel Noir, AHUS, Gravity, and it's all similar in tone in terms of intersectionality between Haitian existence and XYZ, L, and NLP. So I'm going to continue to write and get published in terms of that space. In terms of inspiring others to do the same work, I think my perspective on it is a little bit different than others might think. I don't want to inspire others to do similar work. I want to inspire them to have agency. So all of the work, like I founded a nonprofit called the August Project, and if you want to donate to the book, www.theaugustproject.org/donate. There's something specifically for the book, and all the money will go directly to the book for that. But there are times where I am a little resentful that I am the way I am. Like, I wish I would have been like a finance bro and been like having 6 figures and just like, poverty is their fault, right? Like, it's just kind of like this like weird divorce from reality, because I feel like sometimes ignorance is bliss. I don't know if I would wish this heaviness on someone else that I love, but I do know that a lot of the work that I do is to inspire someone's ability to act outside of forces outside of their control. So the reason I care about alleviating poverty so much is because, like, I'm such a dreamer. I'm a writer, and I'm a fashionista, and one time I was like, I want to go to Haiti. I went next week, right? I want to go to Dubai. I'm going to just go, right? And I love my ability to be so free. And in collecting these stories, everyone doesn't have those abilities because they are worried about where the next meal will be, where they're getting clean water, if they're going to die from diarrhea, and how they're going to get literally from Haiti to Texas border by foot and boat, right? So I would say that my goal is not to inspire others to do similar work, but my goal is to remind people of their own dignity and to emphasize their agency, and for those who don't have full agency, to remove the forces that disallow them from just going for what they want.
I love that. Now, I will say, right, also, one more, and then I'm coming to you as well. So in terms of therapy, right, I think a lot of us, we hide the fact that we've gone through all these traumas because our stories are very similar with, you know, coming up extremely hungry and trying to figure it out and then making a life for yourself. I'm a founder now of 2 businesses when I thought I couldn't do anything, right? Named Nicole Jones, Meraki Maven, Vision Marketing Partners, please come find me. But at the same time, like, I didn't think I could do, you always hear that you can't do it, right? So I think that the goal is always to open up the conversation for the trauma so that people can have it. I piss off my grandparents, I piss off all the elders, and I'm absolutely here for that. Even though I absolutely respect them, I also think that they need to tell their stories, because no matter what, we're gonna use our voices to tell our stories from what it looked like, from them feeling their traumas at the same time. Somebody gonna call the cops. So, but I just say that to, like, I'm happy that you went to therapy. You got a therapy corner right over here. And, you know, keep using that healing to tell your stories, because in all honesty, if they had that level of healing, they would feel boisterous about being able to tell that story in the same way, because your traumas are actually your war scars that then in turn give you that level of pride to keep on going, right? God can't bless pride, but you know what I mean. And then I went to the Brooklyn School for Music and Theater, right over here. So I wonder, in terms of how I know the power of dance, if made my cousin cry to even watch them dance, even if we cannot understand Creole, I feel like that was absolutely powerful, right? So looking at all the different generations that you get to touch base with in such a physical and intimate way, how do you use that power to empower them to actually be themselves? Because I know you see them so shunned in their spaces. Yeah.
The young people I worked with, you mean, or just in general?
In general.
Oh, it's funny you say that, because I work with everyone from preschool to elders. I do always come in with somewhat of it. I always give space for people to say how they're feeling, speak their minds, and often contribute to whatever movement ideas I have in mind also. Like even just yesterday, I was teaching for Haiti Cultural Exchange at Brooklyn Children's Museum, and I came in like ready to teach Asian folklore, but there was one moment a young girl was like, "Can we do a walk to the side with a clap?" And I said, "Let's add it to the choreography." So I always give space like that for people to offer their input. And even I'm teaching an after-school program right now where I came in with a song shows, and the girls were like, "We want to vote," and then like I took suggestions. I was like, "Okay, we're gonna take a vote when our friends come back," you know. So I give space. I don't want it to be a dictatorial experience. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some times where it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, but but even with this piece, the first poem, which was recited by me, the dancers actually generate that movement. I found a way to put it together. So I always create space where people can offer their voice in the idea that I have, or offer input, because I don't want it to be a dictatorial thing. And that seems to work for me as an educator and artist. So
I think you guys are all powerful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We did get one question on this side. Okay, so I just wonder, because we didn't talk much about my brother, puppeteer, Emmanuel here. So, first of all, my name is Bruce Cannon. I'm the artistic director of Swedish Cottage Marionette Theater. Central Park, and also. So, Emmanuel, my question to you is, I know you're a great showman, you're a great storyteller. How does puppetry inform your work, or how do you see puppetry as a vehicle for change and telling the Haitian story? I know I put a lot here.
Off the cuff, that's a good question. You know what? I'll share what I kind of had prepared anyway, because I don't know why I picked the story I did. It stuck out to me honestly, and for various reasons, everybody I told it resonated with them. And it's like, why folktales? Why that folktale? Why puppetry? As I've said before, the energy of the moral of that story is a lesson in how to accept when things don't go how you want them to, right? And working at the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theater, people come to see the beautiful shows, we see the magic we create, and they don't know at the Marionette Theater with string puppets, they always ask, what do you do if there's a tangle? If. The real question is, what do we do when there's a tangle? Every show there is a tangle. No, it's like there's no show without a tangle. That's just period, right? But what, and I think about it because Fatima's here, my sister at the cottage, is what happens for a kid show, for a puppet show. It's like, you think it's silly, but to see the way we dive backstage to like save this thing or like quickly fix something, go, 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 like it's life or death to keep that magic alive, to tell that story, to do what we're doing. And it echoes the process I've had to kind of answer what you were saying about how it's changed me as an artist. Yeah. I've been in puppetry for about a decade, a little more maybe, but primarily as a performer and doing damn good, I'll say. I'm puppeteering at the Met Opera. And so the challenge of producing has shown me like, oh, this is a real mountain to climb. Like, let me roll up my sleeves. But it wasn't done alone. I'm gonna shout out blanking on the name. She's holding the camera. Latifa, the BFA art majors that helped me produce the backdrops for the show, for example, collaborating with. So it's showing that it takes a village to raise a puppet production, so to speak. And yeah, so the art form, it kind of fits the idea of what to do when things go wrong. And you see how beautifully the show came out. No one knows little mistakes here and there. What happens is the intention, the heart of what was shared. And yeah. Oh, socials.
Oh, I'm Maxine Montelus everywhere on Instagram, Facebook. I don't have aliases. So Maxine Montelus on all platforms.
At LE Social Nomad. So Le Social Nomad. All platforms.
Primarily on Instagram, it would be at sword.of.elpenord. Sword of Elpenord. It rhymes like sword.
It would be my full name, so Agumor Nothingness on all platforms as well.
Wait, let's give them a round of applause. In case you don't remember, they can also be found on the Haiti Cultural Exchange website, on the Lakou NOU page, on our Instagram. We've tagged everyone in all the socials for today, and probably in your programs as well. Lakou NOU is an important program of the Haiti Cultural Exchange. I am so grateful that the team here has persevered to make this artist residency possible. Even after many no's, we committed to it. We've made it happen. We've put energy and resources, human and financial, behind it. And it is very different than most of the work that we do at Haiti Cultural Exchange, which tends to be like forward-facing, presenting, one-off.
Definitely more challenging than most of the work that we do in Haiti Cultural Exchange, but also very much rewarding, I think, for the artists, as well as for the community, that we're actually having people engage with. These young people that you worked with, these elders that you got stories from, this intergenerational kind of conversation that is happening is so important. And so I really do thank you for like stepping into this work in the ways that you have with all of those challenges and difficulties that exist in doing this kind of thing as an experiment with us, for us, and with everyone else here. It really is important.